Hi Sagittarius, welcome and welcome back to Heretic Owl Tarot. We're doing our mid-month check-in, being nosy, seeing what we can expect for the rest of March. I hope March is going well for you. So far, yeah, I mean, what are you doing? What have you been doing? Tell me everything. I'm nosy too. That's the reason why we're doing these readings, right? So, as always, I'm just going to cleanse the energy here. So, if you have anything that you would like to be cleansed as well, any thoughts, patterns, behaviors, people, annoyances, situations, whatever, throw it in the bowl. We'll get it cleansed for you. I'm going to hit this bowl 3 times. So just be aware of that if you have AirPods in. And I also invite you to take 3 intentional deep breaths in with me each time that I hit the bowl. That's what I do sitting here, but yeah, I mean, like just really kind of sinking into your body and take up space, like almost, like just feel your lungs expand and how that feels in your body, and like fill your whole body with oxygen from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, right? Like just really let it get in there. Obviously we have to breathe to live, right? But it's not very often that we just kind of take intentional conscious breaths and really just kind of have that intention to kind of fill our own cup up, right? So let's go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So, like I said, we're talking about March, mid-March. We're not working with a spread. My intention is just for a card or 2 to come out. I also had an intention for these messages to be a bit on the shorter side, but none of them have been, which is fine. We go wherever the energy takes us. So I don't shuffle reversals into the deck, but if the cards come out in the reverse, we'll take it that way. And yeah, that's it. And the other readings, this deck has wanted to like be kind of introduced. So I am we're using the modern Spellcaster's Tarot this time around. So we have the 5 of Pentacles and the 7 of Swords, Queen of Cups, Justice, Knight of Swords. Holy cow. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So the 5 of Cups, or excuse me, the 5 of Pentacles, it's an earth card. So Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. But it talks about like the physical 3D things that we can touch. So it has to do with our money. It has to do with our physical body. It has to do with, materials and resources. And generally, the Five of Pentacles talks about some sort of lack, like whether that be just like a lack mindset or just kind of feeling like you don't necessarily have enough. You know, like in this depiction, it's almost kind of like being turned away from some sort of maybe even assistance. The traditional depiction of the Five of Pentacles is, you know, like kind of being like left out in the cold. Like, you know, this door is locked here. So there could just be kind of something that you are coming up against. Now, the lesson with the Five of Pentacles, and really any five, is that it is a temporary energy. It's, you know, the fives talk about transition and change. So it's that little blip between spaces from getting from here to there. It's the right in between. And then we have the Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords talks about risk. Swords have to do with our thoughts, our intellect. It deals with our ego also because, you know, our ego lives in our heads. So it has to do with how we perceive our external realities. The Seven of Swords also talks about being a bit sneaky and potentially manipulative, like the traditional, and it's a little bit in this card too, but the traditional depiction is the figure is, you know, kind of like tiptoeing away with the Seven Swords. So it's, you know, a little bit of thievery. That's kind of where that sneaky energy comes from. But also, you know, like I said, it is about, you know, kind of taking a risk also. But in this depiction, it almost kind of looks like, I'm not necessarily getting like the sneaky or, manipulate. I mean, like this could very well be you fooling yourself to some degree. And of course, you know, I mean, if there are other people involved in this situation, like if it even has to do with work, it could be that, you know, there's maybe just kind of something happening in the background that is a bit sneaky or just not on the up and up. Interesting. And then we have, it's just so interesting how many court cards we have down here. Two. So we have the Queen of Cups. Cups talk about our emotions. And now, you know, when we talk about court cards, it also kind of talks about the energy of, you know, like actual people. So it can be representative of certain people in your life, like the pages talk about more of like an immature type of energy, like adolescent to early 20s. The knights talk about, you know, like kind of young adults, like 20s to, you know, 30s, mid 30s. The queens talk about, you know, again, just even more maturity, right? You know, like mid to late 30s to late 40s, 50s. And then the kings, you know, kind of talk about the more elder energies, like, you know, kind of 50s, 60s and above. You know, but that comes with experience, right? Like that's also, you know, kind of the energy of those cards is that, you know, we kind of start out maybe feeling a bit, you know, green or adolescent in a situation. And then just as our experience builds, we gain knowledge and we gain experience and we, you know, like, so then we kind of were able to grow. So I just wanted to say that since we had so many out here. So we have the Queen of Cups. Cups talk about our emotions. And we talk about the queens, like, you know, even just kind of her sitting here, right? Like very, content almost, like comfortable with her feelings. The queens also talk about like individually embodying the energy of the card, right? Like you feel good about yourself. Like your outlook feels good. You're happy with where you are, right? Like just all the good feels. And then we have Justice next to her. So this, you know, Justice talks about the scales balancing. You could be dealing with a Libra in your life. There's this wheel up here. This could be the wheels of justice. I kind of see it as like the Wheel of Fortune wheel, like, you know, kind of things just kind of starting to change. And I always see it for your benefit. She has a pomegranate here. Pomegranates represent fertility, but it's like, you know, kind of birthing opportunity into your life. You know, and even her hand being a skeleton, right? And just kind of recognizing the sacrifice that comes with that. And I keep getting like my attention pulled to these two columns here too, because, you know, in this darker column, you know, these columns talk about the duality, like the duality between light and dark, right? And just like I was kind of saying, like the space between, right? But even in this depiction of the pillar, right? Like if you can see, there's this figure here that's holding a sword or a knife. Looks a little menacing. There's some skulls down here. And then on this side, like the lighter side, there's, you know, kind of wheat grass here. I can't tell if he like has some sort of like, I don't know what the term is for that big like that big knife like sword looking thing that they cut through wheat with. I can't think of the term for that. But that's interesting. And this is interesting seeing as we have the Seven of Swords out here and even just this duality that's going on here. So again, you know, like this could even be just kind of something that's kind of taking place like within yourself. You know, like there could maybe just be this fear of losing out on something, or even this fear of walking away from something, this fear of like being turned away from something. And again, you know, like it would also kind of have to do with your job or like even just like your security. It could even have to do with your time, like, you know, like the energy that you put into stuff. Interesting. And then we have the Knight of Swords. And the Knight of Swords, very fast moving. Almost doesn't really think before he goes, like doesn't necessarily think before he acts. So a bit more impulsive. I mean, you know, like just the body language, right? Like it just kind of looks like he's charging towards something. And then we have the Knight of Wands, and the wands represent your energy, fire energy, right? And, you know, he's definitely a bit more playful, right? He or she, I should just say they. I'm getting better at that. But a bit more playful. You know, there's this level of, just again, based on the body language, there feels like there's this level of success here. Like it looks like he's kind of celebrating. But there, you know, with the wands, it is playful. It's creative. You know, the wands talk about communication and acting on something. So this could be, you know, like the way that you are communicating with people. You could be just kind of introducing more, you know, kind of play, or just, you know, kind of that feeling of like even trying to find space in your life to find, you know, like joy or just kind of a bit more lightheartedness. And then we have the Page of Swords. And, you know, the Page of Swords is a bit egotistical. You know, I mean, even just, you know, holding the Ace of Swords here, right? Like, I mean, just look at it. Look at the size of it, right? Like compared to even this figure here. And just, you know, like kind of the expression that they have on their face. Like maybe there's a bit of a little bit of inflation. It could be like an inflated, you know, kind of sense of self, or which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, like, of course you would have to use your own discernment, but, you know, like feeling good about ourselves is not a bad thing, right? Like, you know, kind of, and especially when it's based on truth, right? This could even just kind of like having like a true, honest, view of yourself. Maybe even just, you know, like, again, because swords have to do with our thoughts, right? So even just kind of getting clear about this situation and what you want to do. And then we have the Death card. So, you know, the main message with the Death card is rebirth. You know, like there's that saying, I feel like I might have said it before, and if, you know, you might have heard me say it before, but there's that saying that goes, beginnings disguise themselves as endings. So, you know, there's definitely something coming to an end here. And, you know, like right behind that, we have the 10 of Cups. So like right behind this end, right? Like is this beautiful, you know, kind of, you know, the 10 of Cups is the minor arcana card to the Sun card. So, you know, even just this play, it's joy, it's being able to, you know, kind of share that with other people, whether that be your family or your community. So, you know, like just to kind of, you know, like wrap this up and put a bow on it, you know, if you're feeling, because this does feel like it's more internal, like it doesn't, you know, there's nobody else really on here, right? Like there's only one person in most of these cards. So this seems to be something that you're working through yourself. So, you know, like if you're feeling like, you know, and like I said, you might just be kind of fooling yourself about this situation. Like maybe you don't think you have the goods. Like maybe you're just concerned that putting yourself out there in whatever kind of way, you know, people would reject you. Like, or maybe it wouldn't, you know, like you're worried that, you know, something is just not going to work out the way that you want. Like, you know, you're going to get this type of reaction from people, right? Like maybe that's kind of what you're fooling yourself into believing, right? But then there's this whole situation down here where you know how you feel about yourself. And I want to say that you actually feel good about yourself. Outside of like everybody else's bullshit or like societal shit of like, you know, how we should be living our lives, how we should look, how we blah, 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 right? Like beyond that, when you're sitting with yourself, I get this feeling that you feel good about yourself. And that seems to have taken some work for you to kind of come to that place. And maybe it's just, it's, you know, like I said, you know, this figure here is standing between the duality of the dark and the light, right? And keeping the scales balanced. So maybe you're just, you know, kind of teetering between that, you know, those stories that we tell ourselves and that have been part of our story forever, right? And then what is actually true and what we actually believe about ourselves. Because there does have to be some sort of balance there, right? Like if the balance or if the scale is tipped too much in either direction, it gets toxic and it doesn't work. So this could even just kind of be like, you know, this reminder about keeping things in balance and how important, you know, like that balance is, and even how important that balance is to show other people. Because it's kind of like, you know, when you do that, you give other people permission to do that for themselves and in their own lives, right? Like, yeah. I thought I was going to say more, but no, that was it. And then, you know, like we have this, you know, there seems to be like you really kind of want to move forward in, you know, like really just kind of go for it, right? And something that you truly believe in, and even something that, you know, maybe lights your fire, something that, you know, like you do find joy in, and it is to an extent play for you. And look even how, you know, like they're heading towards each other. Like those two things are colliding, right? Like standing between this duality here, right? And then, you know, like this getting clear, and even, you know, like allowing yourself to kind of have this, you know, maybe a little bit inflated sense of self. I do believe, you know, like that, just like with anything, you know, like to balance out, if you've been so far on one side, like let's say, you know, like you haven't really had that good of a sense of self, you know, then it almost kind of takes going in the completely opposite direction and just being a bit inflated about it to, you know, kind of find that middle ground. And, you know, again, like just this reminder about really resting on what is true. This is the Ace of Swords. This is the sword of truth, right? Like really resting on, and even going into battle with the Ace of Swords, right? Like, regardless of kind of what even ends up happening here once you kind of go for it, right? The truth is what is going to come through more. And other people will back you up on the truth because they'll know that you are representing yourself in your truth. They'll know that the information that you're providing is true also. And all that other shit, is bullshit, and it'll get cut out. So again, you know, like then we have this end, you know, like this could even just be, you know, like going through this just rebirths you. There's some sort of rebirth within yourself. And, you know, like it's almost, you know, like just kind of becoming exactly who you want to be or who you see yourself being. And again, you know, like this has to do with community. So this is sharing, you know, like with community. It could even be building community. It could have to do with your family, right? Like everybody's needs are met. Everybody feels good. Everybody's cups are full. There's plenty of fucking cups to go around, right? And also with the death card, you know, there's a symbol of Saturn here. So, you know, you could be going through a Saturn return. So you could be like 28 and a half-ish, or you could be 56-ish or around there. Cause I think it's, you know, like Saturn, you know, like makes, has a return every 28 and a half years, I think. So, you know, like that could be going on. Or you could be around that age. Like this could just be, you know, because Saturn is a planet of change too, right? So that could be kind of why you're almost like kind of being forced into, and forced in a good way, right? But that could be why you're kind of going through this situation, because Saturn's like, hello, we're here, we're doing this. And it's going to be great. Like, it is going to be good. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.